welcome to this episode of Musically Cogitating, a podcast about the relevance and importance of living and enjoying music of all kinds, and about how that music impacts our everyday lives. I am your host, Ciyadh. Thank you again for joining me here on this podcast Wednesday. Any of the links and things that I refer to will be in the show notes, so be sure to check those things out there if you want to reference them during or after you listen to today's episode. I am really excited to talk about today's topic, which is going to be social music sharing. That's what I'm referring to it as. I don't know if anyone else does, but that's what I'm going to call it. So we're going to call it social music sharing. And I've been thinking a lot about this over the past month and then last week. If you were on Instagram at all, you would have noticed that Spotify Wrapped came out. And so I thought it was the perfect time to finally do this episode. So as always, I have lots of thoughts and things to say. I think there are good things that come along with social music sharing. And then I think there are some not so great things that come along with it as well. So I think that social music sharing is a phenomenon, if you will, wherein people talk and take to social media to share about the music that they're listening to. So they're going to share with you their music listening habits. And this isn't in the content creatory way. It is in the I am, a normal person who is not a content creator, who is just sharing with you, the people who happen to follow me, most of which, you probably know or, are a few degrees of separation away from. And I'm going to tell you what I've been listening to lately. So it's not really them or people in the act or process of consuming music or hearing music or attending a concert, but it is other people telling other people what they are listening to. And yes, I've been wanting to talk about it because I think it is a really interesting thing that has continued to evolve. And I do think that it has, yes, some positive outcomes, but I think it has some unintended negative impacts on music and art, and I wanted to talk about that. So let's start at the beginning. We're going to talk about Spotify Wrapped, and I think this is a thing that Spotify does that has really popularized social music sharing. And I'm going to read to you excerpts from Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is all-knowing about what Spotify Wrapped is. And so Wikipedia says that Spotify Wrapped is what they call a viral marketing campaign, which we'll get to later, by Spotify. And they began doing it in December every year since 2016. The campaign allows Spotify users to view a compilation of data about their activity on the platform over the past year, then invites them to share it on social media. And then on the page it reads, Spotify Wrapped is shared widely on social media each year and has led to millions of people to promote Spotify on their social media accounts, right? Its release in early December each year has historically correlated with a boost to Spotify's App Store ranking. The marketing campaign has been both praised and criticized for effectively providing Spotify with free advertising, and has been characterized as related to broader questions about data and Spotify's use of it. So it is important to, kind of tell people if they are concerned about their data and data privacy, that it does take, the data that you give it, which is listening to it, and you give it permission to do that when you use the app, and it does share it. Now, yeah, it is only good or bad, only sharing the songs that you listen to, but some people might not be interested in that, and some people are. Now, I wanted to also go back to thinking about just social music sharing, but not necessarily taking place on the big kind of social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, Facebook, and all of the others, because there have been other things that have in a way predated Spotify Wrapped and its competitors or friends or allies. So Spotify has always had this social music sharing element or angle, and I think it really became big to share music with other people kind of socially on the internet when it became really, really easy to share playlists with other people. But then there was this social element that continues to exist primarily on the desktop app, where you can see what other people are listening to via this sharing feature thing that's on the right hand side of my screen. So like if you open up Spotify on your PC or your MacBook or something, like that, your Linux machine, if that's what you use, you'll see Spotify there, and there is a social feature where you can kind of follow people that you want to, and you can see what they're listening to. And you don't have to share. You can have like where your Spotify is only private and it's not shared publicly with people who follow you, but you can follow other people and add friends, and they can share back with you if you want. And you can, make fun of them for listening to the really angsty things that people are listening to. And I think at one point it was kind of cool. I don't know that I really ever liked it necessarily, but I thought it was cool-ish. It was a little weird because I don't really want to know what other people are listening to, because if I wanted to know what other people are listening to, I would just ask them. I wouldn't look at their Spotify account, but nonetheless, it was something that existed, and so I think people would use it. And it's interesting that Spotify has really failed to innovate on that feature and in that space. And I think it's because they have started to really focus on developing Spotify Wrapped, which has continued to change. And I'm not sure if it has improved necessarily in the way that I think of when I think of something that is improving, but it is something that they continue to iterate on, and you can tell that for them it is a really important part of the app's development, and also the business of Spotify, like their business development as well. So if you were at all on social media last week, you probably saw this primarily on Instagram, where people were sharing their stats, their data of what they've been listening to for the past year. And I will post some of mine, although it's not really nice or it's not really exciting, but I will post mine. So Spotify, if you go in the app and you click on it, Spotify Wrapped, it makes these really, really cute shareable Instagram stories and posts and things that you can put all across social media. And it's, really, really popular, at least for that one day. It's been a few days since that's been out, of course, and I haven't been seeing it as much, although I haven't been looking as much. But I think less and less, like as each day comes from the initial date of it launching, fewer people are posting about it, because a lot of people do it on that very first day. But it is a thing that is there, and it came out and everyone was posting. And so on Instagram, you would see on people's stories that they were reacting to what Spotify said that they listened to. And I think I put like reacting in quotes in a way is because I don't really think that it's accurate. And so if it's not accurate, then kind of like, what's the point? Also, if it's not accurate, then what are people really reacting to? Are they reacting to what Spotify wants them to have listened to and reacting to that? So yeah, that there's also that part of it. But then, you would see on Instagram all of these reactions and people sharing what they listen to, and then you would go to Spotify. And then you would go to Twitter, and you would see all of these other reactions. And some of the reactions would be like, oh, this is awesome. I love Spotify Wrapped. I saw someone say that it was like receiving a Christmas present every year in early December. And it's not that. But, that person really enjoys it. So, of course, this is a feature that is for them. And another reaction would be, I use Apple Music. So for any of you Apple Music users out there like me, there is not even a feature that is comparable to Spotify Wrapped for Apple Music. So that was one reaction. Another reaction was, who cares? And then you have the fourth reaction of just people being like, it's Spotify Wrapped, and they're moving on with their day. So I put a couple examples of the different reactions in the show notes and in a blog post. But it's interesting because it's really elaborate, the way that Spotify does it. You open the app and you touch on the part in the app where it's like, here's your Spotify Wrap, and it presents it to you as though it is an Instagram story. So it's like you're looking back through your Wrapped, and it's presented and it has music, and you're tapping through and you can see these stories, and there's all these animations, and it's playing the songs that you've listened to, and it's trying to create this feeling and this manufactured nostalgia and this ambiance, and it's just really interesting, and it has expanded a lot over the past few years. So in the beginning, I think it was, there was this one thing that you could share, and it was just your top 5 artists. And now it includes your top artists, your top albums that you listen to. It says it includes the number of minutes that you listen to music. Again, I don't think that any of this is accurate. So, but it is there. The number of minutes that you listen to music through the app. It includes top songs, top genre, and yes, it even includes top podcasts. Now, I've been hearing people say that podcasts are primarily what people listen to in Spotify, which is actually really interesting, that it's gone from being a music first to kind of podcast first. And I know that they've recently acquired a audiobook company, so we'll see. But yeah, a lot of people are listening to podcasts in Spotify, so you can also see your podcast Spotify Wrapped. And fun fact, I've posted the wrap for this podcast in the show notes as well, so you can see that, which is interesting, and it's cute. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, Music Cogitating has a Spotify Wrapped. But then I was like, whoa, let's think about that. Am I playing into it, whatever it is? And the answer was totally yes, which is fine. But it was there. So Apple Music has something that is in no way similar, and it's just they call it a replay, and they didn't start this until 2019 is when they started this replay, and all it is a playlist of the top songs that you've listened to over the past year. So again, I think that all of these experiences, whether it be in Apple Music or in Spotify, or if you use Tidal or Qobuz or any of these other platforms, I think it kind of creates this like pseudo nostalgia, or this manufactured nostalgia for people to listen and engage with these stats. And because it's cool to think about, oh, I was listening to music this much, or when I was going through a really hard time, I listened to that really sad song 50 times. And in a way, it's interesting and cool, but I think it's not as interesting and cool as we might think that it is. And I don't think it has the most positive impacts, like I said. So now, yeah, I am a person who does love music stats like this, right? I've done 2 episodes about tracking music and how I do that, and how engaging with music is really important to me. But I don't think that Spotify is really doing that for people, for listeners, and I don't think that it is really doing that for artists either. And so, like, what does it do for artists? And I think for some, they might think that posting about artists is a good thing. And yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I don't think it's really doing as much or what people would assume. So people probably think that artists without a huge following might gain some free marketing and advertising because people are sharing about them. And yes, like as they say, all marketing or all press is good press, no matter if that's good or bad. And it can be positive for those people, and it does work for some, but it's probably not really working for artists who are smaller. and they are really deserving of these types of opportunities, and they deserve to see a return. I'm going to guess that they're not really seeing the return that maybe the back end of Spotify is promising. And what ultimately happens is that the artists who are already big continue to get bigger, because we've learned that, playlist culture and the way that recommendation algorithms work, the bigger artists continue to get bigger, while the smaller artists continue to struggle. So I don't think it does the good for artists that we might think. And, who does it really promote? Well, as Wikipedia told us, and because Wikipedia is all-knowing, it ultimately really promotes Spotify. And this is genius on their part, because for one day and many days following, people flock to streaming services because they want to know what their Spotify Wrapped is. And for Spotify, it's all free. And for the people who do pay for the service, they are paying for this thing they can post on social media, but it doesn't cost anything for it costs, but it doesn't really cost anything for Spotify to do this. So it's really interesting. And when I was thinking about this episode and compiling my notes, I went to look at my Wrapped, because that's what you do. And you can't look at your Wrapped on PC or desktop devices or Macs. So you have to do it on a mobile device. So it has to be either phone or a tablet. And I think that is really, really frustrating. And not frustrating because I couldn't access it, but frustrating because there's this whole part in music streaming and arts ecosystems and technology where everything is tied to a mobile device. And for accessibility, yes, this is so important, and this is really great and essential. But we know that Spotify doesn't really care about accessibility. They just want to drive users and numbers to the mobile apps, because we know that algorithms and apps are created in such a way that it keeps you there. It keeps sucking you in. And so what they're trying to do is really just suck you in to using the app even more. And it's really popular. It is just so popular. And I don't think that, if a thing is popular, that means it is bad. But in this case, I don't, again, know that it is a good thing. And it's really popular because a lot of people do it. And I think that people don't want to be left out. So there's this FOMO, this fear of missing out, that if you don't post your Wrapped stats for the year, that you don't really care about music, that you don't really, listen to, that you might be ashamed, or that you don't care. I mean, there's all of this that goes into it. And I think that's why it's so popular, is that people just feel compelled to do it because they see other people doing it. And so there was this really interesting tweet that I'll link, but it's someone tweeted that I think the experience is remarkably bland and low effort. Everyone has an almost identical Wrapped, and even the exact same cheesy, quote, Gen Z voice copy. Yes, it is effective marketing, but that doesn't deserve praise alone. I want to give my money to companies who go above and beyond. And so this person was tweeting at Last FM, which is the company that I think does this thing. They take the scrolls and they take the listens and they keep track of them, and you can see all of your music stats, which is a lot of fun for, yes, someone like me. But I think in the way that Spotify does it, and then Apple's attempt at doing it, it's not really great. And so again, all of this being on social media leads to, I think, a couple of things. I think it leads to virtue signaling, and this idea that people post what they're listening to, because if they listen to things that everyone else is listening to, well, then that makes them a good person, and it means that they have good taste in music, and therefore they are doing nothing wrong and they should always be accepted. I think that it, for some people, leads to public shame. And the internet is full of people who are shaming each other, unfortunately. And I think it leads to a lot of that. It might not be very public, but I'm sure that there are people who are messaging each other and speaking badly to other people based on what they post in their Wrapped. I think it leads to a little bit of disappointment as well, because people will view their Wrapped results and they will become upset with the app. They won't want to listen to music anymore. They don't see the point in posting it. And so it gives people a bad perception of what it means to be someone who is a music listener, is a music lover, and wants to engage in what is a really positive and moving activity. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I did look at my Wrapped and it was woefully inaccurate. I know this, and so I didn't post it because I didn't want to post it. That's not really important to me, like I said, but it was there. I did listen to it. Now I did check my other apps to see about what I've been listening to, and that was a much more accurate picture. So I've talked about that. I will continue to talk about that because I find it really, really interesting. So I also don't use Spotify as much anymore because I have my other ways of listening to music. So that's also part of why I feel like it's inaccurate. But there's my top artist. I've never heard of that person. And yeah, like I share my Spotify account, but still, I don't think the other person had heard of that person either. So it was just like, this is wrong and it's inaccurate. And so no, I'm not going to post this because I wasn't going to post it anyway. But now I'm really not going to post it because why do it when I have no idea who this person is? Now, yeah, I did talk about Apple Music and their Wrapped playlist, and the brief it is, the long and the, well, we already did the long, but the short of it is that Apple Music claims that they don't do any of the kind of stuff that Spotify does because they are, quote, more privacy focused. And I don't think that they're more privacy focused. I think that they just haven't taken the time to do it because they think that people are going to still use Apple Music. And so what is really the point if people are still going to use our service? Like, I'm not going to stop using Apple Music because they don't have Wrapped. If I was going to stop using Apple Music, it would be because of something that was far more important to me. And I think that most people are like that. Although, yeah, maybe people do, decide to switch so that they can start tracking in, using Spotify Wrapped at the end of the year. But I think most people, they just kind of get over it and move on. So ultimately, like, what does this do for music? And I think this is exactly what this podcast is about, right? It is like, how do these other things that are in the world, these phenomenon, these trends impact music, and how does that impact our lives? And I think social media is great. Like, we are able to connect because of social media, but the bad of it is that social media is not always real, and in a lot of ways it gamifies life, and people will go to extremes to post things that are produced and not true. And again, this is Spotify. I don't believe that what Wrapped says is true. So it promotes these falsehoods in a way, these inaccuracies, and I don't think that does good for artists, and I don't think it does any good for music listeners and lovers as well. So it doesn't really encourage people to engage with music, to engage with artists, to support artists in any way, to share with other people, to be advocates for their favorite artist. I think it diminishes the value of consuming music when it brings it to just something that you post on social media. And yeah, like, social media is fun and important, and I make these blog posts about what I listen to, but it's a long thing. It is more than just about, oh, this is what I listen to. It is my thoughts, my love of music, and so in that way, and a lot of people do that, I think that is really positive. But I think that posting for this one day on social media is something that is probably very inaccurate, and doesn't really do much for artists. I don't think that is really a positive thing. And so we just kind of fail each other in a lot of ways. And I'm not saying that, we should stop posting our Wrapped. Like, if you posted your rap and you had fun and you did enjoy it and you didn't feel, FOMO or shame or disappointment or didn't, feel the need to self-deprecate, then that's great. Like keep doing it. But just know that these things that we do on the internet, on social media, do impact our lives. They impact our artists. They impact art. And so it's very important to think about. This week's music recommendation of the week is Sing by Batiste featuring Tori Kelly. So it is a really, really great song. It'll be linked in the show notes so that you can listen on Spotify. And I probably soon will replicate the playlist across some other music streaming apps. So be on the lookout for that. I will announce it when I do that. Don't forget to follow the podcast on, yes, I'm going to say it, social media and the website. And of course, sign up for the newsletter. I'll be sending out another one of those very, very soon. If you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, please give this a rating and review. If you are listening to this on Spotify, I hope that this podcast was in your Spotify Wrapped. And if it was, please send me a picture because I would really love to see that. And if you would like, you can always support the show via Buy Me a Coffee, buying a t-shirt, and all of that great stuff. So I will be back in 2 weeks with the next episode of the Musically Cogitating podcast. Until then.